Well, folks, we have made it to the penultimate episode of The Acolyte this evening, and I think we are about to finally get some answers, y'all, and I'm just gonna cover my ears because I'm just claiming right now, whatever Sol confesses, whatever went down, whatever he did on Brendok, which I don't know, we're gonna find out. Whatever happened, I believe it was obviously corrupt enough, bad enough, that they couldn't share it with the Jedi Council. Otherwise, they might have been expelled entirely or fired, for lack of a better term, so they agreed to keep it amongst the four of them: Torben, Sol, Kelnaka, and Indara. And speaking of, I hope we finally get to see some of this trailer footage. I think there are still a few shots of Kelnaka in action. There's, I think, still something very major in store for each of them, all of them, including Sol. We obviously know that he broke off from the rest of the group during the fire on Brendok to go and retrieve the girls and save Osha and attempt to save May, but what were the other three doing, and why was it so bad that they couldn't confess it to the higher council? That's my prediction. After Sol explains to May that he's gonna come clean to the Jedi Council, it means whatever they did, they kept it amongst each other and pinky promised and said, this stays with us. So, that said though, I think they all maybe have played a different part in it. For example, Torben was driven so to the brink that, he took that way out when May offered it to him. When he was presented with an opportunity to atone, he took it and said, we thought we were doing the right thing, so what the frick were they doing? All that is to say though, whatever Sol confesses, I'm gonna just forgive him immediately. It would take a lot for me at this point to lose my faith in this man. However, I expressed, I think on Twitter afterwards, that I was genuinely scared of Sol in that final moments there as he's imprisoning May, essentially, to make her sit down, shut up, and listen. And the fact that he would go rogue and defect here to avert, Venestra and the rest of the cleanup crew coming as backup, that I feel like is very much against what his character has kind of been this whole time, wanting to do right by the book, obviously wanting to do the right thing and kind of being inhibited when Venestra has to step in and tell him we have to go through the proper channel, we have to go about this accordingly without necessarily involving the higher council and whatnot. But Sol seems to very much be one to abide by orders. For him to go rogue here, do his own thing, it's of course not a great look that he's suddenly absent now after sending a distress signal and they go and discover all the bodies still on Gofar. We'll hear Sol telling May perhaps the truth. That's kind of been the crux of this whole show. It's like, what's true and what's not, and we've only seen little bits of puzzle pieces and teases and whose bodies are present, when we see the demise of the coven. Mother Coral is missing. They show us May igniting a piece of notebook paper, but then cut to the entire fortress is on fire, completely burning to the ground. I still don't believe a tiny piece of paper could have done that unless they had god-awful fire protection measures. So they've definitely curated what they show us intentionally, what we can try to piece together and, theorize about based on what we're given. So I feel like so much of this show is two sides of one truth, two sides of a coin. Obviously, it's a show about twins. It's certainly focusing on the duality here, but similarly for May, she has a vendetta that's clearly driven her to the brink of course, wanting to take the ultimate revenge against the Jedi who were stationed on Brendok when all this happened, but I still think that she doesn't necessarily have the full scope either. Perhaps we'll maybe even see how she survived. Who the frick knows? I'm just gonna say now, I love Sol no matter what, but who knows? That could be the cruel crux of this show. They build him up to be this amazing character. He had that incredible extended scene last episode where you just feel your heart breaking for him as his whole world is shattering around him and he's lost everybody on his team, and it was just this beautifully acted moment that just broke your heart and draws you in. That's how he's been playing this character. So it would just be the ultimate heartbreak if all this time he's been concealing something truly vile, truly sinister. It's time to sit down, shut up, and listen. I'm ready. All right, here we go. Let's get into it. Episode 7, Choice. A bitter truth is revealed. Frick! Don't say bitter. That means this is gonna be a hard pill to swallow. Here we go. Back to it.
You must eat, Padawan.
I'm not hungry. I want to go home to Coruscant. And there's no one here, and if we were going to find something, we probably would have found it by now. But if only I knew that what we were doing was somehow important or meaningful.
Oh, it's gonna be.
For our apologize.
That concentration of Force energy.
Nothing could be more important to the Jedi.
My Padawan is too distracted to appreciate the significance of emergence. I do not tell him answers to ease his mind. I teach him to seek the answers for himself. That's why I have a Padawan and you do not.
Oh. He was so desperate for one then. So I think the coven definitely knew about the Jedi being here before the Jedi knew about the coven's presence. He looks horrified.
Can you read me? Can you read me?
Dang, that's wild. The coven knew about the Jedi lurking around. Jedi had no idea. So they didn't really know what they were getting involved with when they infiltrated. Yeah, look at this place. It's made of entirely, like, stone. How could it have just burnt down so fast? Did he really just ring the doorbell? Saul? Dang, he really infiltrated. Oh, frick.
A Force cult here.
I think they're witches. They do not treat the girls like children. The witches prepare for a ceremony tonight. I know you would defer to the council, but I insist. See what I have seen.
That's interesting observation. He says they don't treat the girls like real children. But how is what he saw any different from what the Jedi do?
I'm going in alone.
Master.
They'll take it as a threat.
Which they did.
Fine. But we must be vigilant.
Should have listened to her. Oh, how differently things would have gone if she had just gone alone. Not only that, but they sliced the controls. They really just broke in.
Good evening. I'm Master Indara.
I'm Anastasia, mother of this coven.
We thought this planet was uninhabited.
I find that hard to believe. Torvin, Jedi Padawan. You've traveled so far only to become trapped on this planet. Do you wish to escape this planet? Do you wish to escape this planet? Do you wish to escape this planet?
She pegged him as the weak one of the
You wish
group.
to return to Coruscant? Why not ask me? Ask me. Ask me.
I want to return to Coruscant.
Kneel. I suggest you all leave. Now.
You cannot deny that Jedi have the right to test potential Padawans.
She was playing mind games. A little
The
sinister.
scouts will bring Osha to your camp.
That was clever. Suggesting we test the girls.
I feel a connection to Osha.
So, Osha's too old to join the order.
I feel she's meant to be my Padawan.
The coven will never let her leave.
They mocked her sister with dark magic. I worry she's not safe. I believe she wants to live with us.
Do not confuse what Osha wants with what you want.
Ooh. This is so tough. They're just making assumptions. 4 agreements. Make no assumptions.
You must divine what images appear on the testing
What
screen.
do you want me to do?
She's like, cut to the chase. So I can do the opposite.
A spaceship. A necklace.
The image hasn't appeared yet.
Last night before we entered your home, what was everyone doing in the courtyard?
Ascension.
Is your marking a part of Ascension? Do you like it?
Ascension means Osha and I will lead the coven. That's why I have a marking like Mama. Everyone must walk through fear. Everyone must be sacrificed to fulfill their destiny.
Sacrificed.
Thank you for explaining that to me.
Can I go now?
She's like, oh shit.
Bane was instructed to fail. I would like to try a different approach with the other child.
You may.
There are other children there?
But But you must have the courage to say what you want.
Ooh, she knew he was kind of going a little bit rogue here with the emotions. Interesting. So everything Sol was doing was a little bit unconventional. This is tough. He really just wanted a Padawan.
Osha passed.
This is so tough. He kind of was blinded.
The council said no.
Ooh.
But there's something dangerous about those women.
They say that we have interfered too much already.
Will they let us come home at least?
No. Do not alter this little girl's destiny because you have formed an emotional attachment to her.
That is not what's happening here. I want to do what's best for Osha.
You don't get to decide that.
It's the twins' blood test results. Very force sensitive. Their symbionts are the same. Even identical twins would have different symbionts. This is impossible.
The twins were artificially created.
One consciousness into two bodies?
Only virgins could create that type of power.
Oh, I have chills.
This year.
We just need proof of a virgins, and those girls are the proof.
Stop him! He'll not get out. Take the ship!
Want to stop Osha from leaving? Stop her. Get mad.
Coral is an instigator.
No one can get in or out.
Arm yourselves!
Oh, F.
You can't go. We're stuck here now.
You cannot let them in your head again. Do you understand?
Alright, what really friggin' happened here?
We won't let it happen.
What is happening?
The Jedi have breached the fortress again.
I would die before I let the Jedi take my children.
What are you doing?
So she did start it. I mean, but how does it spread? Sol and Torben together, they're just enablers for what each of them desperately wants right now. Torben wants to get the frick out of there, and Sol wants Osha as his Padawan.
Take another step and it will be your last.
We come with noble intentions.
You wish to know if we will allow Osha to join you.
Where did they come from? How were they?
Those noble intentions you all have will destroy every Jedi in the galaxy.
Mama, help!
Osha!
What?
I was going to let Osha go. She chose you.
Ooh.
The twins! They're locked inside!
What is this? Well, that's why Mother Coral's body wasn't there. Oh.
What's happening again?
Oh! Well, we finally get to see Kelnaka in action. He's just not on our side! Oh! That is horrifying. Ooh. Yeah, how the frick do you take down a Wookiee Jedi? A possessed one at that. Everyone's just getting tossed. Oh. Does Sol somehow kill all their spirits at once? Is that why they all, like, died? okay? How the frick? Death by hypnosis? Oh my god, so he did try to save both of them, but does he try harder for Osha? He frickin' lets her go. Oh, jeez.
I warned both of you.
I wanted the twins to be safe. I had to make a choice.
What will we tell the council?
We will tell the council the truth. May burned down the witch's fortress, and everyone was lost.
I must face the council.
Why would you do that to her? You take away her dream as well. Ask yourself why you made this choice.
Oh, frick.
We are on our way to Crescent.
What happened?
They started a fire.
I like this credits music, okay. Truth hurts. F. Throwback to when I gave Sol the benefit of the doubt, and I was on the verge of making the assumption that optics-wise it doesn't look great that he happened to make it out with only Osha and not May, but conveniently Osha, the one who was presenting as Force sensitive and wanting to join the Order. They have since obviously, they learned, you know, that May was of course lying and that they were both incredibly Force sensitive, this virgins and whatnot, but throwback to when I was like, well, at least Sol tried to save them both, and because we saw him do that exact same thing, obviously, in episode 1 when he saves Osha from backing off of the cliff. You know, we knew he was capable of it, so, you know, you don't see it from his perspective. You don't see that he was trying and then had to choose. Oh, frick. And that is tough, because everything else that happened here and transpired, they had to all carry with them and keep between the 4 of them. But for Sol, nobody else witnessed the fact that he had to just make that choice. He alone had to carry that burden. It gives so much more weight and just depth to that line when Jackie asks him, are you sure, you know, that May, her twin sister, is actually dead? And he has to immediately retaliate and say, I saw her die. And yeah, you did. Tough. Like, they obviously have made a point to show that Sol is incredibly powerful, incredibly strong, literally only has to play like defense. He barely has to move a muscle, and he is just so powerful, great in combat. He's got all that going for him. So, and then to make a point to show that he is like severely struggling in that moment to try to prevent the 2 of them from falling to their death, that it's so unbearable and he has to just choose. But obviously, you know, what's hilarious though is like in that scene there with Torben, when they go to confront the witches and Coral's there to make the final stand on the front lines, and May runs out in fear, you know, trying to stop the fire, and he confuses her with Osha. He didn't even recognize that that was May for a second. Like, I wonder if that was intentional, like to suggest that he couldn't necessarily tell the twins apart. After all, he had only really just met them. Was that meant to suggest that he couldn't tell them apart? Because if that's the case, then obviously it's a much different choice. But I think it's obvious that he knew which one he was saving when he rescued Osha and had to sacrifice May. That's really freaking tough. I think the toughest pill to swallow from all of this is here I have been the entirety of this show, ride or die, absolutely just obsessed with Sol. I would get in the octagon for him, love that man. Here I was saying nothing could make me despise him, nothing could make me angry with him, but I'm not exactly angry necessarily at all the events that happened, because all of this time I've really been fearing, like, what corrupt shiz did the Jedi do? What did they do to completely execute the entirety of the coven here. Like, how did this all happen with so many casualties that you can't help but think at the time, with the knowledge that you have, that the Jedi had something to do with it, that they were the cause? It's also very interesting because from May's perspective, Sol is her real, true target. I wonder if she was really saving him for last, eliminating the rest of his companions on this trip one by one to leave him in fear, knowing that he would be the next target, because she witnesses him slay Mother Anastasia. I don't know, that was interesting. That was really all of that with the witches. I'm gonna finish my first point. My first initial point is that the hardest pill to swallow out of all of this is that Sol's character, you see him as super noble. That's what he says in this in particular. He describes it, we're here for a noble quest, we don't mean you any harm. But when you learn his true intentions and that his judgment was clouded by his desire, to have a Padawan, and Osha happened to fit the bill, and the circumstances of, well, hey, I'm fearful for them. Everything that he saw, I'm sure, could definitely, raise some alarm bells. Doesn't necessarily present any differently, though, than if you were to spy on, Jedi training younglings. How is what he saw any different from what the Jedi do? And he makes that poignant statement. They weren't necessarily treating them like they were children. He sees them training and immediately feels like something sinister is going on. But how is it any different from the Jedi with younglings? Not to mention, Anastasia says it perfectly. They have a family here, and now she's going to be raised in an institution with you. Not treating children like children? What do you think the Jedi do? Take them from their parents and essentially raise them to be the best trained killers in the galaxy? That's not what they do. But, they essentially, to raise children without a parental, in a place without parental love, for children to be raised under those types of circumstances, at the Jedi Temple, you can make the same argument. You're not treating children like real children. Real children deserve familial love. It's really been disheartening here this episode to see that Sol, who I thought was so noble and so always wanting to do the right thing, was, if anything, acting on very self-serving motivations here out of that desire to have a Padawan, and then all the pieces just fell into play. But to see him, begging Indara to kind of, go against the grain and not go by the book, not consult with the council, and as the opportunity comes to test Osha, he suggests trying an unconventional route to reach her, and kind of gets her with the bait of, oh, you'll be with a bunch of other kids? Who's gonna say no to that? So it was really interesting to see them show that kind of unspoken connection between Indara and Torben as they're listening to Sol, pour his heart out here to Osha to try to kind of, motivate her to follow her dream here and make the choice that he wants her to join and become his Padawan. But you could tell that they both acknowledged and made that eye contact and knew that this wasn't the right thing, the right tactic to try to recruit. Also very interesting that they confirmed what I had been curious about. Osha and May are seemingly no older than Anakin is in Phantom Menace, and so to hear Indara here say, they're too old, there's no way their family will let them go, or that the council would let us take them. And so to see that it boiled down to just the circumstance of they had absolutely no choice, and then they weren't gonna freaking abandon Osha and, leave her with nothing. That's probably the most painful part of all of this. Sol's not the goody two-shoes that you necessarily think he is. And I love him, and he has this big heart, but he kind of used that to lure Osha. Deep down that he really, truly wants a Padawan for himself. It's doesn't make me feel good. So it's not like they lied to the council necessarily about what transpired here. They just lied by omission. There I was assuming that they had just been keeping this as a pact, a secret amongst the four of them, concealing the full timeline of events from the council, but they told them the surface level truth. Very intrigued here by that magic from Mother Anastasia and Mother Coral, and of course, I had chills during that scene where Torben realizes the kind of convergence and that they're split of the same, consciousness and whatnot, and all of the Jedi are immediately alarmed at that, that gave me true chills, learning more the truth here. So I guess... Frick, will Sol, like, come clean to May? Apologize? Is that what he's been toiling over? What he would say to her all these years? Like, beg for her forgiveness for slaying her mother right in front of her? I question what Sol was thinking in that moment, if he knowingly thought he was killing her, or I don't think either he or Torben had any idea what was going on with the magic. You know, I think that was their best line of defense, that the Jedi had no clue what they were dealing with. It's just kind of painful to see. Like, does this episode paint Sol in a bad light by any means? Like, not necessarily. I don't think he's evil or anything like that. This in no way, shape, or form, like, flipped his character, like, in a total 360 by any means. You know, you can tell he still has a big heart, is extremely compassionate, that all still remains, and it's clear now he's been just living with all of this remorse and grief, knowing then he has really no choice but to keep that to himself, and to then just train Osha, you know, give her the best life he possibly can, knowing that he really left her with no choice after all this, kind of because of his own selfish intentions, you know, having a hand to play in how bad this spiraled. I still love him, but I see him in a different light now. It shines a different light on his character, but then it's of course balanced by, you know, he must have just been eaten alive by all this terrible, awful guilt. So then to learn that, you know, May is alive, I'm sure it's interesting. There's got to be some relief there for him, knowing he's vindicated, of course, knowing he's on her hit list now that she's trying to execute all the other Jedi who are responsible here. Perhaps he feels responsible for the fact that, you know, Indara, Torben, and Kelnaka are deceased because he was the one who, you know, slayed Mother Anastasia, and I guess the others just got roped into that vendetta for May. I guess that's what he's gonna confess to her, some form of just apology or begging for forgiveness. I imagine this incident with the coven, this backstory here, and how it portrays the Jedi through a different lens, but even when you see it from their side of the story here, from their full perspective, and you get their observations, it still goes to show, like, they kind of are just inserting themselves as if they know best, as if they have any more authority than the coven does to train children. And I can't get over what Mother Anastasia was saying. We at least give them a family. I'm just thinking about where this is going to put us, where this is going to put May, you know, when she hears, you know, Sol's side of all of this, where this is going to put Osha when she learns, if she learns at all, the truth comes out that Sol was only able to save her and her master, and, you know, Sol, who she's put so much value in all her life after this, when she learns that he had to sacrifice her sister. Like, especially when you learn how truly bonded they are, it'll make it hurt all the more when she learns this, the hand he played in this, and that he kind of was just so desperate for a Padawan. I keep using that word desperate. Let me know what you think, like if he just genuinely really did want a Padawan and the pieces just happened to fall into play here conveniently for him, but I don't know, I feel like he was very clouded, very much just blinded by that, and Dara the whole time was trying to steer him back. I'm scared now. Darn, I still love Sol. Still love Sol at the end of all this. I'm so, like, at this point I feel like, frick, anything could happen. I do feel differently about Sol after this, and that's, like, super painful, but I would still get in the octagon for him. I still love him, and I will still be traumatized and upset if anything happens to him next week. So on that note, thank you guys so much for watching. I can't believe the finale is already freaking next week. Let me know what you guys think is gonna go down, if y'all have any predictions. I will see you next week for our finale reaction. Yeah, and I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Bye, guys.